It's just everything. It's just the resignation. When you hear it, it's just my mind and my ears right now. It's just the resignation. This is astonishing. Okay, so I feel like you guys actually kind of answered my next question, but I'm gonna just still ask it just in case anybody else has anything to add. How is the work you are conducting intersectional, integrative, inclusive, or innovative within this?
Look, since we doing double dutch, since I can never jump double dutch, I'll just be the first to do this instead.
Yeah, you could turn the rope, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a role for all of us, you feel me?
We all got a lane. And I can definitely say for Fatra, our lane in sustainable fashion, what makes us so revolutionary and innovative is that it's taking raw resources. It's taking resources that you can normally look around, you know, in your immediate environment, and you can find and you can recreate. And much to what Miko was saying about, it has to, in order for it to be regenerative, it has to be something that's in your community or reach back into your community. I feel the same way with your materials, and as well as manufacturing, whatever you're trying to make. If you can look to the left and look to the right, and what you're doing is not helping the people that you look to the left and look to the right, there's no need in you know, being a philanthropist and helping the children in Kenya. Not that that's not important. However, when you come out and you look to your left and you look to your right, the children that's in Kenya is not going to do, you know, that's not building where you are. And it's regenerative in a whole different type of way that I don't want to shoot down, but I think that there's also like this fantasy of doing good in other places, or being the big fish in a small pond in other places, when in fact you can do so much right where you are. You know, I'm picking up and I'm getting with local businesses and organizations that are donating their plastic bottles, as well as employing local, you know, college students, local artists, working with local manufacturers such as Custom Collaborative, to get projects done, and looking and researching to see who's already doing the work and collaborating versus trying to compete. Because we know that we're in this sustainability space. We're all on this train together. And so we're not really trying to, why recreate the wheel? And a lot of that is also about paying homage, you know, paying homage to who has already started doing this work, who has already been in this regenerative space, who has already, you know, I think a lot of what we should do to keep pushing this forward is solicit advice from the right people. You know, look at my Polynesian brothers and sisters out in Hawaii, how they sustain themselves out in the middle of, you know, the ocean for so long. It's only when we start having this disruption and this interruption with other ideas and ideologies that are not our own that we start to reach into, you know, into problems, into trouble. So I think that we need to go back to when things were working properly, and all, like my father always says, be the juice extractor, you know, take out the good and leave the bad, take out the things that we can use today and leave the other things. You know, we have so much technology, but they also had technology that was simple technologies back then. And I think that simple is, sometimes it doesn't have to be something that's major and digital and, you know, disposable. And I think those very things are what got us to where we are. You know, we promoted disposability as to say, be futuristic, step into the future. Nobody's carrying glass around. Nobody's only keeping one dress. We promoted that. That was not we, but in general, society has promoted that. That was something that was specifically targeted and advertised to our community to throw things away, to get rid of things. And that's outside of our culture. As Dom says, regenerative is something that's automatically inherent within the Black and brown cultures. And it's something that they've tried to whitewash away and now repackage and sell us again. And so I think that something else about Facha is, just like Miko said, is giving that Genesis story, knowing where things really started, to know how we got here. And So it's the intersection of history and the intersection of today, you know, the technology of now, but also the technology and wisdom of what sustained before it was interrupted and before it was disrupted. Innovative because, like I said, raw materials, you know, we're not melting things down and coming back, because recycling means to actually take something and have it come back in the same still the same way, not the same way, but you're not losing any particles, you're not losing anything. And a lot of times when you start to process, you do lose, it's not quite a full on recycle, it's an upcycle, it's something different, but utilizing what's already there, utilizing leather that's already there. Now no one wants to use leather, they want to recreate something else and use pleather. Why when we already have, unless the world is going to stop eating beef tomorrow, when we already have hides. It's only when you do things unethically and industrialized that it starts to become problematic. And I think that we just need to reel it back a little bit and use what still works. And a lot of the time that material is right there, you know, plastic bottles, plastic, whatever it is, leather, textiles, you name it, we can use it again and use the full value of that resource. That was long-winded as well, Miko, it's okay.
I mean, you dropped so many jewels and you pinged. I'm looking at Candu in the comments. I'm loving it too. And you pinged so many things that just even over the pandemic, when I was really just digesting and really going in, you know, just really taking in what this moment was. And some of the literature I read was around Anunian theology, which is, you know, before Kemet. And so much of the systems that we have modeled, or what American society has modeled, has been, obviously we know how was often our culture is being grabbed in many different ways, the origins of our culture being grabbed to create this country and other European nations. But Anunian theology talks about, you know, what equanimity looks like. There was face recognition back then. They wrote down what someone's face looked like, and, you know, particular markings on their face, things like that. You know, it was a system of spirituality of always, whatever you take, you have to bring back. You know, the currency system, everything was already there. Every single system was there that we have now, you know, continue to move forward. Nothing that we're seeing is new under the sun. It's just repackaged and reformatted, right? As Akilah said. And so, you know, as Black people, we just inherently, if we look at what we do, as Dom said, as Akilah says, if we look at what we do, I mean, we all know about the plastic bags under the sink. Everybody has a bags of plastic bags. My mother's always had it. I have it now. My sister has it. We always have some kind of, we never throw stuff away, you know, because we always find another use, and that's just who we are. And if we look at the way that our ancestors have used things, and I feel like, you know, Akilah, so much of what you said made me think about just our sister and sustainability chat that we had, when so many of us just reverted back to what our great grandparents or our grandparents or our parents told us about, you know, helping our immune systems become stronger. We went back to our old rituals. And I think that's so much what, you know, how sustainability shows up for us, is that we go back to what is inherently ours, right? And that's how we can show up. And so for us, the challenge, you know, people like Dominque, Akilah, and myself as creators, and you also, Tanvi, is to be able to see, like, how is it that we can use what is inherently ours and make it work for in today's environment, to still hold the authenticity of what we have created, and be able to show it and share it and pay homage to it. Thank you.
Y'all are so dope. I'm gonna answer this question very abstractly, because I don't necessarily work to be intersectional or to be inclusive. I really like the heartbeat of why I do what I do is ultimately to reinforce the credibility of Blackness and brownness. It's not to be, it's the goal is not to be included and to be, you know, necessarily part of the mainstream, although that may be part of the journey to get to where we need to be. But for me and the way that my methodology and how I'm working, and really the goal in fostering, you know, relationships and inspiring folks and helping to improve community, you know, participation and community accountability is to think almost in adjacent systems from how the mainstream, how mainstream ecosystems are working. So it's, yeah, for me, it's not about being, you know, intersectional or inclusive. Those are, it's really about being the premier and being the heartbeat and being and getting back to the roots and recreating our foundation. Because we have thousands of years of anecdotal information. And I'm not just talking about our ancestors, I'm talking about our elders and our contemporaries today. There's so much information that has been passed through from all over the globe. And so it's almost this reimagining and this reaffirming that I'm sort of focused on with regards to how I conduct my work. Again, there may be places where I got to make left turns, and there may be places where I got to do sacrifices here and there. But yeah, my end goal is very much in this liberatory state where we are the pulse and we are the heartbeat, like reaffirming that, and getting and just stepping away from the fact that, you know, I heard somebody talk about, I don't know if that was you, Akilah, who talked about disposability, but just like understanding that we as people have been disposable in this space, and we have to understand that it's not just resources that have been disposable, it's also been our intellectual property. So I'm not trying to be inclusive, I'm trying to stand really firm in showing that our like the opposite of regenerative is disposability, right? And so it's really a paradigm focused on reimagining and less about trying to fit into certain spaces, if that makes sense. And sorry, y'all, I'm like 9 months pregnant, so excuse the shortness of breath and all the things. So I'm just putting that in the universe.
Listen, we are happy you are here with us. Like when you accepted when that email and you said that, you know, you were pregnant, like I was just honored that you are in our presence right now. So thank you. And just it's like every point, it's like I have so many things I want to say in my head, but like we have to keep it going. But yeah, like the heart, you just got at the heart, and that we really are the heart of all of this, right? And this goes into kind of my next question about like culture within this industry. And it's funny how we always end up kind of being like pushed to the end, even though we are like, you can't rip off the prototype. Like, come on, like how do you do that, you know? And that is, I really look forward to that piece, that human piece within all of this, because it's like you can market to the people, but it's really the people at the end of the day that's gonna make any of this work. And my next question is, how can we shift the paradigm of the current legacy and culture of fashion, which is known as fast, wasteful, exploitive, toxic, I like to just say, i.e. everything that's anti, in order to make regenerative fashion more culturally relevant?
Do you guys mind if I answer this first?
Of course.
So being in the industry, well, first, let me just take a step back to just pay homage and, you know, to Mr. George Washington Carver. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ancestor, just because, you know, stories like his need to be amplified. You know, most of us know about George Washington Carver peanuts don't know about the agricultural pioneer that he was. So just want to pay homage to him. Secondly, I've been in, as I said, I've been in the industry for almost 2 decades, designing denim. Started with Kamora Lee's Baby Fat collection, and went on to do Jessica Simpson. That was my last Jessica Simpson's collection, which we know made too much goddamn money. But you know, part of my work when my first trip to, just as a personal story, baby fat bags. I'm loving Ken doing the comments. So part of my work, so I started in the industry really early on, and was able to get in really early and get in a lead role. And when I was able to first travel to Pakistan in 2007 and see firsthand, what was happening on the ground as far as making jeans, I was devastated. And I thought it was just indigenous to this country because I was like, oh, it's a third world country, da da da. But then I moved to China and saw the same things, maybe 4 or 5 years later, saw the same process, the same mechanisms. And from that moment on, I had known that this was going to be part of my work, was to be able to find, ways to be able to change the narrative, to have conversations. And part of my role as a design director, and just if you don't know, design director or creative director in the design space is literally the person who is always presenting to the salespeople, but is managing the design team, who has the vision for the brand, who has to tell the story of the brand, but also comes up with the silhouettes and the amount of different styles and SKUs, the numbers of styles that we do, the washes, all of that is part of what my role was. And work with my sales team, production team, sometimes it's coming up with innovations in fabric and all of that. And so part of my work was always trying to change how the relationship to fabric that these companies would they had. And a lot of their reaction was, the consumer doesn't get it, the consumer doesn't want it, they don't understand it. And so that was my battle. I feel like today we're in a very, very different place. I feel like today the consumer has been given a lot more credit. And I think because the models have shifted, the retail models have shifted so dramatically that it is now manufacturer to consumer. You don't need the middleman. You don't need design houses. We're lucky that we could have our design spaces and go direct to consumer, but the manufacturer, the factory on itself can deliver direct to the consumer. So the consumer is demanding more. We are seeing a real way the impacts of social justice, and as far as climate and how it's affecting our psyche, our mentality, our way of life, and we're seeing so much more how we're connected to Earth, not just by what's happening with the weather, but how our resources are getting depleted. So and it happens consistently. Right now we're having a cotton shortage. My good friend Julius Tillery, who's a Black farmer in North Carolina, he's being hit up for cotton now because of the cotton shortage and because of all the propaganda that's happening on the cotton side, and across the globe. There's still slavery. There's still enslavement of cotton makers and cotton users and cotton farmers across the globe. These systems haven't changed, but what I think has changed is our perspective, and we have the media and technology has afforded us the opportunity to be more visible and to see more of what's happening around the globe. And so I think what people like us and having these conversations, we're forcing us to be more culturally responsible and culturally accountable to the type of the work that we put out. And I honestly feel like, because the retail chains have shifted, it's changing how we are operating in the space. And another ancestor who just passed in the last year, George Floyd, shifted the entire paradigm of how we operate holistically. how businesses are showing up, how, you know, diversity inclusion is including so much, is now included as part of the core social responsibility and in connection with sustainability. They're now seeing sustainability beyond, you know, climate. They're seeing as creating more inclusive spaces for people like us. So I hope I didn't divert from the question too much, but I just wanted to answer. I felt like that was, you know, that is, you know, so much of what we're seeing has just shifted. So I feel like we're in a good place. There's a much more work to be done, but I feel like we definitely have shifted just in the last 2 years.
I just wanted to tag on the back of what you were saying, Miko, about, see, I'm kind of at the crossroad when I see brands now. Like, yes, same. I've been, you know, my first brand was shoes 10 years ago, and the fashion industry is a lot more accepting of a lot of ideas, and even just combining a lot of social justice with fashion. I think also Kirby from Pierre Moss, he did a lot, you know, to set off, you know, just that merge. But also I feel like a lot, like I was in Miami and I seen someone with a bag and it was like, I don't know, Steve Madden, and it said like Black Lives Matter on the front or something. And it's just like the optic versus, but are you hiring Black designers in Steve Madden? The optic versus what does the operations look like? Where's the money going to? Like, I feel like a part of it is also just the same picking and at our pain to be repackaged yet again, but in another light. Like, yes, I feel like they've kind of understood the fact of sustainability. You know, I had somebody call me and they were like, well, you know, they were like a word or a breath short from just saying, I just need a Black girl that's on the team because I know that it can't be sustainable without a Black girl. You know, they were like this close from basically just saying that. And so I feel like while now it's a lot more accepting, it's also that we have to be a little bit more sharp and astute, because we need to be able to maneuver between what's an optic and what is someone actually putting in the work, putting in, you know, giving our people more opportunities, giving us equity, giving us, you know, opportunities with that in that brand. Because now that there's some brands that are doing it, everyone's just hopping behind that. And I feel like, you know, a lot of us, sometimes we don't like to do the work. We just see the Black Lives Matter in the window and we're like, yeah, all right, you know, I'm down with that, you know, without doing the research and understanding that there is, that, you know, Miko, you're out there, that there's an Oak and Acorn out there, that there, you know, is a Fatra out there, understanding that there are people who have been doing this, who don't have that platform, who don't have that type of reach to be in the Steve Madden store. And those people, and they're still collecting our dollars, you know what I mean? So I mean, that wasn't, you know, a question or however, that was just a comment, or just something that I kind of really struggle with. And, you know, just understanding the real from the fake, because now a lot of fakes are out because of the George Floyd instance. You know what I mean? A lot of the Black squares.
Yes, no, and I agree with you in that, but I think that's for us to use our discernment to really support our own businesses. We have put a lot of money into these bigger luxury brands, aspirational brands, but it's time to take money out of pocket to pay for brands like ours, who, even if they are a little bit more expensive, you don't have an issue of paying for a Louis Vuitton, a Gucci, and all these other brands, but pay for a Telfar bag, pay for a Haftra bag, pay for the bags that are really making a difference, you know, in the community. There are a lot of Black squares. There are a lot of people who are, you know, perpetuating a fraud, you know, but being a little bit older and having seen this, I feel like, you know, what is different from today than yesterday is that this generation is holding them accountable. You know, everything from, like, I can just use Diet Prada for an example. They're holding people accountable. Some of it is too much, and some of it is like, exactly right. Like, you can say, like, you know what, how dare you? And they are getting back in line and making the correction. Before, they would not do that. So I feel like there's a big difference today than it was yesterday. And you can absolutely be like, you know what, hey, I'm very offended by what you just said to me. And this is what needs to happen. And they will correct. And if they won't correct, the difference with today is you can put them on blast if they didn't correct it.
Like,
Hi, Miss Underwood. Hi, Miss Underwood. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
My name is Sena. I'm a Ghanaian, a graduate intern here at the Tuskegee University. Yeah, you mentioned in your presentation that there's shortage of cotton, right? Yeah, but these days we see fabrics, pants, which are ripped off brand new. And I know we should try to be conservative. We shouldn't waste resources. Now with those brand new ripped pants, one, they will not last their lifetime because they are already torn at the knees and thereabout. And then when they go into the washing machine, in no time, they lose the value because part of it is already ripped. And it's not only that, environmentally, a lot goes into the creation of those pants because they need special bleaches to get those places softened, and then they are ripped off. Then they need special, they need to be washed to get rid of the chemicals that they use. So in effect, we are actually putting a strain on the environment. But that is the order of the day now. People want that, and then they don't use them for so long. But if it is the normal pant, you could use them for a longer period. Now, how do we reconcile the two? And then our mindset. Are we not doing harm to the environment, to the economy ourselves? Because you are going to cough out more money in a short time to get more clothes.
So you're just,
opposed to if they were not ripped, you use them for a longer period. So how do we reconcile that with the program we are running currently this week about regenerative procedures? I hope you get my point.
Some of it I got. I heard you talk about fast fashion and understanding, people wanting a certain trend.
Yeah.
And also, the way that, this trendy product is made and how it's harmful to the environment, right? Was there something else? Because some of what you were saying went out. So just please let me know if there's anything.
Yeah, let me add up. Our parents.
I'm sorry to interject.
Okay, you come in and I'll.
Yeah, we have a Q&A like after this. I just want to make sure, just to be fair to everybody who else might have a question.
Okay.
We can get to you when we get to the Q&A, because I just have one more question I want to ask them, and then we can get to. Yeah, thank you. So my last question is, what vision do you have for the next generation of regenerative pioneers in order to have a seat at the table as key stakeholders in these emerging industries? And this goes for fashion, fibers, textile manufacturing, like the whole holistically.
Vision, right? We're visualizing. What are you pointing at, Miko?
I was pointing at Akilah jumping in.
Oh, girl,
I didn't see you. No, you go ahead.
Do your thing. My brain is still working / baby kicking. Go ahead.
I think that ultimately that we need to understand, what's the saying, that if things were not the way that they were, they wouldn't be the way that they are. So that's just, I think, in order for us to move forward in this regenerative space and to cultivate more of a regenerative industry, I think we have to start from the beginning and understand that for us, like Miko was saying, what it meant for cotton and indigo and what that meant for us. And we have to change our relationship with the outdoors, you know, with our environment. I think that there is kind of a stigma between, you know, farmers and growing, and you think of, you know, slavery, but that's when they have told us that was our genesis. They didn't go back, you know, to when we were in our native lands and how important a weave was, or when we wore certain things for different types.